Hey guys, so I apologize about the part 3 video. Gimbal actually got messed up on me and it lost its center pretty much, so it started tilting like this. Just need to be recalibrated. I don't think I did it since I got it, so I think that was one of the issues. But it's up and running, so we're A-okay now. So I didn't want to go too far, but if you guys remember lastly, pulled out that diff cup, and what I did is I put the spider gear assembly in, the main gears on the bottom. So then we're going to come to with our needle nose again and take the other half of the spider gear like this, and you're actually going to cross it. Oh, lose that washer there, it's not good, don't want to do that. Give me one sec here guys. Definitely don't want to lose this. This is actually a little shim and a little block that goes on the end of the spider gear that actually locks it all in place. So these do fall off very easily, so you definitely don't want to definitely lose those, and they're very easy to fall off. I wish they made a better way of doing so, but sadly they do not. So you're just going to kind of put it in there like that. Slide it back and forth. Now if you look here, you can see where that spider gear is over the top, but those blocks aren't lined up yet. So what you're going to do is take your little flathead screwdriver, kind of push on that side, push on that side, and then you're going to push each gear next to it. So you're going to do the same thing for this side. You're going to go ahead and push that block forward, that gear forward, spin that block so it's actually going to look vertical, and it's going to lock in. Now here's what you're going to have. So you're actually going to have your full spider gear assembly in there. Just for testing purposes, we're going to go slowly rotate it. You can see that all the spider gears are catching, so that's exactly what you guys want. Now keep in mind that this little bearing cup is never going to stay on fully until once you put it on. So then you're going to take the bigger gear, which is actually this guy here, the bigger one, and you're going to flip that over so that it's completely upside down. And you're going to take that so it's like this, so that way the gear is face down, and you're actually going to go ahead and put that on top of the spider assembly. Again, use a little small Phillips head, or a small flathead screwdriver. Real simple. So here's what you're going to have now. And you can see where that gear is sitting on top. Everything's rotating freely. There's no issue. So then, this is where your rear diff fluid comes into play. I'm going to double check myself in my brain here, just to double check. I'm pretty sure I use 5K, but it's always a good idea to check. Rear diff fluid, 5K. Yep, so I'm good. Just double checking. So you're going to take this fluid here, and you don't just dump it all in, guys. That's not how a rear diff works. So you're going to take it basically just like that, and you're going to go a little bit in the middle, go a little bit in a circle here, and you're not even going to add that much, okay? You don't want it to fully fill up yet. So then you're going to take your hand and your drive cup and slowly turn it, so that way you can see all those bubbles actually getting out. You'll start to see the bubbles, and you'll notice that when you spin it, that the gears are really starting to take up the diff fluid. So you're going to go ahead and do that. Keep in mind though that you don't have anything on top. You don't have the top. So this gear on top might want to escape out a little bit. So you want to make sure you don't turn it too fast. So I can see that the spider gear is starting to definitely take up a lot of fluid here. Again, you don't want to overfill this, because if you do, you will have a mess on your hands. So gonna kind of spin a little bit more there, and you can see right there where it's all spinning. along the gears, and I can actually see that all my bubbles are actually almost out with spinning this guy. Pretty close. Still a couple. Could add a little bit more to top it off. Not very much, just a tiny bit. That's about it right there. So that's about how much you guys want to put in for diff fluid, okay? And again, you're going to rotate it. That's the biggest thing. It's getting all that air out, all them bubbles, so you can check to make sure there's no bubbles around your spider gear, anything of the sort. Okay? So that looks pretty good. I'm not getting any more air bubbles in there. Really good. Usually it takes a little bit more, a couple tries, but I got pretty lucky on this one. This rear diff build hasn't been bad at all, guys. This one is it's been cooperative with me. So you're gonna go after, and you're gonna kind of do exactly what you did, but on the top of the gear where the screws go through. So you're gonna take out them screws because you know all 4 screws go to there. So you're gonna put them aside with this gear right here. You're gonna take your bearing, your outer bearing, and keep in mind that you cleaned off all that. You got all that dirt and grime and nastiness off. So you're gonna put your bearing on the outside, like so, like that. Then you're gonna take the drive cup I told you about, the piece that goes before it, actually, before the drive cup, I'm sorry, the U part. Remember how I said that this U piece only goes on where the screws go? So we're gonna go ahead and do that now. Sometimes you gotta really push them on there until you hear that clip, but once you hear a clip, it's on there. So you're good there. Just take your finger, flip it upside down, make sure that push nothing in here. Sometimes it'll push a lot of dirt and grime and nastiness in there, so you don't want to mess with all that. So then take your drive cup here, and you're actually just going to basically flip this over while holding the drive cup piece. You're going to take the drive cup and you're going to put it straight down in, like that. So you can see a little bit of dirt got pushed out, which is actually good because it cleans it out. So usually your O-ring will stay, but sometimes it won't. So in this case it didn't. So just take the flat part of your blade, not the point part, and just kind of guide it down like so. Because if you don't, all your fluid's gonna leak and it's gonna come out and you're gonna have a mess on your hands and you guys ain't gonna be happy. So keep in mind you don't want to take the point of the screwdriver of this, because if you do, you can very easily tear this gasket. So we definitely don't want to do that. Then you're going to take your shim here. You're going to put the shim over the top of the drive cup. Actual axle piece that comes through. And if you guys remember, I said that we had that one other pin that would go on top. So this guy right here. So you're going to slide this pin right through. Kind of hard to do with your hands. Sometimes it's real slippery there. Okay. So got a nice tight fit, which tells me that the O-ring is seated down correctly. Your pin is all the way through. Your shim is on top. Now, this part can be difficult. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. What you can do is, if you look here, on the inside of your diff, again, spin it one last time, just to make sure there's no bubbles in there, because once you seal this up, it's sealed. You guys don't want to redo it. So I'm looking at mine over here, and I got no air bubbles, which is nice. So like I said, this one, now you're going to take a company to where that pin cross is actually fitting. So you're going to take the top of this gear, and you're going to take where that pin is, and you're going to put it right on top. Sometimes you gotta wiggle it back and forth. Now what you want to do from here is you want to make sure that you have everything all lined up. So what you can do actually is just make sure that you got your gaskets lined up, because sometimes it won't line up with the hole. You just want to double check to make sure it's seated in there right. Because sometimes they like to be a pain. So we got this one started here. Just want to make sure that you got everything fitting down in here correctly. This is definitely a part where you want to pay attention to the being how tight you put the screws in too. So you're going to just snug that one up a little bit. You're going to come over to this side here. Again, you're going to go, if you guys know anything about taking apart lug nuts, you always go diagonally across from it. So you want to make sure that you don't just put one next to the other. Now, I'm going to show you guys what I'm talking about. So if you see one screw's there and one screw's on the bottom, so they're across from each other. Keeps the tension even when you're putting your part together. Okay? So you're going to come over to the third one. Keep in mind as well, these are not fully tightened down. The main reason on why I fully do not tighten these down all at once is because you can blow out the gasket. Which means the gasket will actually shift. And when the gasket shifts, you don't want that, because if it does, you're taking everything back apart to square one, and you have to put the gasket on right in order for it to shift. For it not to shift, I should say. So now, being that they're all down there, I can go ahead and tighten this down fully. To where these screws are going to be sitting fully down on the gear, the plate to the gear. Again, I'm not tightening them fully all the way yet. I am tightening them though. So again, I'm going to come to here. And these size screws actually, guys, I do know these are actually going to be a 2.5. These are a 2.5 for the differential case. Or for the differential itself, I should say. So we're just going to go ahead and tighten those down. And like I said, these aren't fully tight. They're tightened down snug. Once I fully tighten them snug, then I'll go around and tighten them all down. I want to make sure that the gasket doesn't slip, that it also doesn't blow out. So there's that one there. And we're on number 4. And like I said, if you guys want to use a 12-volt impact, you're more than welcome to. I never use a 12-volt impact on differential screws, because if you do strip them, you have to try to cut an angle next to the actual teeth, and if you do that, you mess up the teeth on it and then you're done for. So now we've got that one tightened down there, so that's number 1. That's number 2. That's number 3. And last but not least, that's number 4. Now, how do you tell that I did a good job on a differential rebuild? Does anybody have any idea here? So if you guys post up some comments, I'm curious what you're going to say. But I will tell you guys, the main thing is you're going to take your clean microfiber now. You're going to wipe off all the excess dirt from your bench if you're on a bench, working on a bench. Wipe all this nice and clean. And you can see that there is no fluid seeping out the sides. So you can tell that when I rotate this, I'll go and rotate this a couple times for you guys. There's still no fluid on the outside edges. So this tells me that the right amount of fluid is put in this diff. It's all set. It's ready to go. Alright? So, then you're going to come back to your stock differential case that hopefully you didn't throw out or anything, because you do need parts from the inside of it. And this is going to be the aftermarket Team Hoonage built aluminum case we're going to be using. Where did I set it? Maybe I set it up here. Nope. Okay, there was another piece I was going to show you guys, but that's okay. So then we're going to come over to our stock rear diff case here. Now keep in mind, I kept my axle on, because I did tell you guys that was the easiest way to do it, remember? Which it is. And you're just going to basically take your hand, kind of slide back this little rubber boot. Just watch it, because these rip very easily. Okay, you can see that it's greased up nice and everything. You're going to take then a flathead. So you're going to come back over to your bench here. You're going to take a little flathead screwdriver here. And you're just going to want to kind of push it in and turn it. Sometimes these little clips like to be a pain. Sometimes it's going to come out easy and sometimes they don't. Sometimes you gotta really work at them. Plus, doesn't help whoever had this one before me. Definitely put a lot of grease on it. But once you get it started, you'll be able to rotate this into a 180. And again, you're just kind of using your little flat blade of the screwdriver just to pry it back. But do watch it though, because it can spring back very far and you really don't want to do that. And there's also going to be a pin that's on the inside of this coupler. So you definitely don't want to lose that, guys. Okay, so once you hear that snap, that means the spring is fully off. And then you're going to want to take something small, even if you use the end of your Allen head here, and you're going to want to push the pin that's in there. So there's a little pin right here. You're going to take that and put that in your cup that I was telling you guys about, so we don't lose that. Take a little bit of microfiber here, because whoever had this prior before me really greased it up here. Like really greased it up. Some people do that, some people run their couplers dry. It all depends, it's personal preference. So, then we're just going to come slide out this axle. So if you look here, there's your coupler piece, your two springs, everything's all set. So we're going to set that to the side. As you can see, there's access now to your pinion. So we're going to slide that pinion out, very easy. Like that. Sometimes you get lucky. They come out with the bearing, which is really nice because that normally does not happen. So we're going to set that to the side on a clean microfiber so we pick up no dirt in that pinion at all. Now, what we are going to do though is take our dirtier microfiber, I should say. We're going to clean off the front bearing, so where the pinion goes through. And sometimes they have a little spacer in between. Some people use those, some people don't. Kind of a personal preference. So you're just going to clean all the dirt, grime, and nastiness off that front bearing. And hopefully, your front bearing to your pinion is not seized. But this one being the way I've been noticing it's been taken care of, I don't think it's going to be seized. But it never hurts to check. So to get this out, it's going to be the really easiest way. You're going to take your little flathead here, and you're just going to kind of put it at an angle, kind of work at it, go left to right, and then just kind of rotate it a bit, and it'll pop that bearing right out. So now we can see that this bearing is all greasy and grimy and nasty, so let's double check this bearing to make sure that it's clean and not seized up. Hopefully it's not. So far we're looking good. So far. Yep, spins freely. No issues whatsoever, no binding, which is really nice. So we're going to put that in our cup there. Now, being that we're not using this case. We're gonna set this down here. We're gonna come back to our Allen head that we were using before. And we're gonna take these two screws out here. You could have did this before as well, but you don't have to. I usually get all the differential stuff done first. It makes it a lot easier. Because then when you just come back to this, it's just this. So we're gonna pull that screw out there. Again, these are more side specific screws, guys, so you don't want to lose these. You don't want to mix up these braces as well. If you have to, take note to how they're mounted. You always want the feet down towards the chassis. So you're gonna pull that one out. You're gonna put that screw in there. Put that screw in there. So that way, we have that aside as well. No issues. Now we're almost done with this. Look how much sand that is. Look at that. That's horrible. So we're gonna come, and being that I'm not using aftermarket brace right now, I'm still using the stock one on my 5B. We're just gonna come and take off this brace because we have to swap that as well. So we're gonna use the bigger Allen head here. And you don't have to hold a socket wrench or anything on the back nut because it should not be that tight. But if it is the same size, it's an 8mm. And you're just gonna kind of back this guy out. Sometimes they're really clumped up with dirt and everything. So you really want to make sure that you wiggle it back and forth here. There we go. So this is going to be your size specific screw that goes into your rear brace and your 8mm nut. So you're going to definitely want to put those together. Just for now, we're going to put that in the plastic. Alright, there's your stock brace. So now we are done with this diff housing. We don't need anything more off it. We've got the bearings off of it. We've got the pinion off of it. Inner bearing, outer bearing, and the brace. So this is all set. So, if you guys want, it's always good to keep your stock cases. And what you can do now is actually just put them together. Again, take your same size Allen head. And you don't have to tighten it fully because all you're doing is you're just basically setting it on your bench. It's good to have a backup, especially if you're racing. Maybe you could have another one that's built, and if something did go wrong in your other one, you can just swap them out real fast instead of trying to pull it all apart on the table. So you got one ready to go. So that one's pretty snug. It's enough to where it's not going to move around and lose parts. So I'm going to put that aside with the other 3 that I have. So that's apart. Same with this one. We're going to put this one to the side because I showed you how bad that guy's was. So this is the other top end of that one. Don't have the screws to this one right now, so I will put that together later. But I know that that is actually from my 5T. So we're going to put that one aside as well. Get that out of the way. Clean up the bench a little bit. Alright. So, now, you're actually going to pull these 2 screws that are size specific to them. Get whatever debris or dust or anything maybe that you might have got inside this differential housing. Looks fairly clean though. Doesn't look like there's any issue with it. So this is going to be your front and this is going to be your back. So you're going to take your pinion bearing, clean it up a little bit, make sure it's not all grimy, and this one's got a little surface rust on it, so I'm actually going to take a little bit of sandpaper here, not very much, just a little, of this 180 grit, and just kind of make it into like a hot dog shape. See? Cleans it up nice and smooth. That way I don't have to worry about any binding, no rust getting inside or anything of the sort. So that's all nice and clean, ready for installation. So you pull your pinion bearing out and set that on. Then you notice that there's no bearing in the front, so we're going to pull that out too. You're going to come over to your bench, and you can do this either vice versa, guys. It doesn't matter which. Usually I will do the inside bearing first. It's a little bit harder. So you're just going to take this inside bearing here. Oh, there's a little bit of metal in here. So let me go ahead and clean that off. Definitely want to make sure that's not in there. Okay, so that bearing's nice and clean. Good to go. Again, you're doing the side where the pinion goes through. Like that. So you're going to get that through there. And sometimes some of these go in easier than the others. Sometimes they do not. So usually what I'll do is once you hear that pop, you can look in there though. There's still a really good amount of space. So actually what I will do is if you take a socket, and the size that I use actually is a 15mm. Can be tall, can be short. And it actually works really well to fit over that bearing. And what you're going to do is you're just going to take a hammer and you're going to take that 15mm socket. Oh, it might have to be a tall actually. Case a little bit different. So we'll use the tall one instead. You can actually use a 7/16. We'll do that because it's a little bit closer. And that's going to go around the inside of the bearing. And just kind of angle your diff case like that. Watch your hands here, guys. So what I'm actually doing, if you guys are wondering with the bearing, I'm pushing the bearing in more. Being that this is a billet differential case, there's not as much give with a plastic case. A plastic case, you can push it in and really push it and it's going to move because the plastic is flexible. Well, with a billet diff case, it's a little bit different. It's a lot more stronger. This is one thing you have an advantage of too as well. So we're going to go ahead and just hit that in again. So it looks like it's getting there. It's fairly close. Not there 100% yet. Then you're going to take your front bearing. You're going to flip this case over. So we're about here. And this one actually is a lot harder. So we're going to balance, I should say. Same thing. Same there. Now to do this one, you're actually not going to be able to hit all on one side because of the way it goes in. So what you can do is just kind of walk it around and then basically put the bearing in. You can see how much flush that's in there now. Still a little bit to go, not 100%. But to test it, what we're going to do is we're actually going to put the pinion on the inside here. And first thing you can notice actually is it probably needs to go in further. But we're going to double check it just to make sure. Give the pinion a nice old light tap. Not a very heavy one. Just enough to slide it past that bearing race. Okay. Now, you can see right there that the pinion isn't far in enough. So that's what tells you when you come out to where your hole is for your coupler that that's not going to meet up. So you can either try to tap in the pinion more, but sometimes it might bind, but just for the heck of it, I'm going to show you guys. So we're going to push it in a little more. Now, you can see that that pinion is in there all the way now. There's no gap. And when you come out to the front, that hole is fully extended. So that way, when you go to put your coupler on, it's going to spin. Now, when you do this, always make sure that your pinion spins freely, because it can bind up on a bearing race and it'll try to do that and it won't turn. So you always want to make sure that you have that turning freely, that if you look inside, the pinion is fine, there's no grinding, nothing of this sort. So that's all good. So that's all set. That was the easier one I've done, guys. It wasn't too bad. Because normally, that little bearing on the inside likes to be a pain sometimes. Not all the time, just sometimes. So then we're going to take some heavy-duty marine grease. Or it can just be any heavy grease that you have. Just to what I have here, actually. So this is just pretty much like a heavy-duty grease. This is nothing special. This is from HPI. And what I'm going to do is, just so that way this pinion doesn't spin dry when we go to first drive it, we're just going to kind of give it a little bit. Not a lot. Just a little bit there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate it. And kind of what you're going to do is you're going to get it all over the inside of that case where that pinion's sitting. Same thing for here, take a little bit more. And like I said, you don't have to load it, guys. I actually probably put a little bit too much on there, but that's okay. The better. So all that's going to spin around freely. And if you like, you can actually take your flathead here, and if you do feel that there's too much, you can kind of just spread it around the pinion teeth, just to make sure that it's, you know, it's not going to hit any dry metal, because you don't want metal against metal with nothing for lubrication. I mean, metal against metal will be better than metal against plastic, but you still want to make sure that you just don't have any, you know, really bad, nasty grinding or anything like that. So right now we got that covered. That's spinning freely. We know that the coupler goes on. So we're win-win situation here, guys. So next thing you're going to do is you're actually going to take this differential here. And before you put it in, you're just, well, actually, you can actually put it in first. So you're just basically going to line up the bottom of these teeth where those little almost points are. And you're going to line up those teeth so that way they slide right in the diff case. And you just want to make sure that everything sits in there correctly.